hey, I know I'm a good 3-point shooter, right? And they
Hmm.
say, oh, well, I need to work on my post game. But really, you need to continue to strengthen your 3-point game. You
Mm.
obviously want to address the post game, but your strengths are what you should really be working on.
Daddy, can I play the music now? But this we go.
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood. Through the thick and thin, we hit no matter what. I got love.
This is me and Daddy here, and
Okay.
Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something. Founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, So Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Mesker Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka D. Lee. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance. Frustration or fear are two of the strongest emotions. During today's episode, we talk to Steve Conti, a sports massage specialist for the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team, University of Maryland Athletics, and owner of Tocar Spa and Sport, about how these competing mindsets shaped his path toward becoming an entrepreneur. Last but not least, Steve also shares his childhood experiences with money and the practical conversations he would focus on now as a father with his own daughter. The financial word of the day is employee, and he gives us his quote for Your Verse, Your Lesson, which should be launching soon on YouTube. Hello, and welcome to Family Abide, So Your Grind with Robert Metzger. I am here with Stephen Conti today. He's a sports massage specialist for the U.S. Soccer National Team and University of Maryland Athletic Department, owner of Tocar Spa and Tocar Sport, continuing education provider and mentor to massage therapists, and last but not least, member of the Maryland Department of Health Massage Board. Stephen, welcome.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for coming on the show. First of all, just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what do you do?
I'm originally from Prince George's County, so PG County, Maryland. Born in DC, but grew up in Hyattsville, Maryland. Went to the 4-star Eleanor Roosevelt High School, 4A state champs, 1999. Had to throw that in there for everyone in PG County because they really hated Roosevelt. Went to the University of Maryland, got my undergrad in communications, and jumped right into massage school. Always had an interest in sports and kind of training, and I found my pathway through massage therapy. So I enjoyed receiving, I enjoyed giving, and I just figured I didn't want to get stuck long term at an office doing something that I didn't necessarily want to do. First job out of school, I worked at, it's now a closed company, but Elizabeth Arden Red Door Spa. I was a front desk manager. And from there, I went to go work in the marketing department for a AmLaw 500 law firm. So a big global law firm down in DC. And then I had enough. I was tired of dressing
So,
up. I was tired of wearing a suit, tired of taking the metro. And I didn't really want to do that anymore. And I wanted to kind of get my hands busy and interact with people more.
so the question that kind of comes up, you have a large background in specialty in your field. Did you want, growing up, did you want to be a small business owner or entrepreneur, or how did that kind of come about?
I never thought about it, honestly, until I was already working in my professional career, in my comms career, and just thinking every day, like, I don't want to do this. Like every day showing up to work, like, I don't want to be here. This is not something I want to do. And that's kind of more what sparked the thought in my head. I always thought, I guess, kind of theoretically, yeah, I would like to have my own business or my own spa, but I never really thought about it in a younger age as we even thought conceptually about a pathway to business ownership and really even what that meant. It sounds like, oh, you just start a business, you make a bunch of money, you do it, but I had no concept or clue really until I kind of dove into it to figure out, oh, this is what it is.
Yeah,
And
you make a good point there. You know, a lot of people today, they go to school, they start working, and they just have a hard time finding their mission or their purpose in their career or their job. It sounds like you went to college, you got a degree, you did the traditional didactic education model. How did you know that you wanted to become a massage therapist? When was your first massage actually? And when did you know that you wanted to become a therapist?
I mean, recreationally, I got massages like all throughout high school, not like profession. This is from like just kind of messing around with it. I knew I liked it because I knew what I really liked the most about it was the reaction I got from giving the massage. Like, oh man, like you see people's faces like, oh, that was awesome. That really felt good. I like that. I feel better. So mentally, I just kind of bookmarked that like, hey, this is kind of cool to be able to help someone feel better. And through kind of your own creativity with your hands. So that was something that always drew me to actual touch in general. So I didn't quite know it was going to be massage therapy at first. It was just more just touch. Um,
Hmm.
and I think my first professional massage, it probably wasn't until I was actually in massage school, to be honest with you. I don't think it wasn't something that was exposed to me or anyone that I knew growing up. Like even throughout college, like none of my friends and none of my friend groups, they were talking about, hey, I need to go get a massage. That wasn't even an option. It's like saying, hey, I
Hmm.
want to go get on a yacht. Like this was not something you thought about at all as an option to go to, which I think is pretty cool now that younger and younger people, college age kids, high school kids are now looking towards touch as an option to help them physically, mentally, emotionally. But, coming up, we graduated high school 2000. I honestly never even thought about going. And one, I didn't have any money, but two, to talk to my parents and say, hey, I want to go get a massage. They're probably like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
Like,
How do you think that transition is happening now that younger individuals are getting more exposed to it? Like, what do you think is different?
I think that it's become a lot more mainstream. Just recovery has become more mainstream. I think it really kind of started with Michael Phelps in the Olympics when they saw all those cupping marks on him. People were like, what is that crazy thing he has on his back? What is that? What's happening? And the conversations are now more and more about recovery and enhancement because I think people, coaches, athletes, parents are realizing the margins in sports are so small that you have to do everything you can to kind of give yourself an edge or an advantage. And I also kind of think sometimes to the detriment of kind of non-elite athletes
Mm.
in their parents' pocketbook because they're shelling out money. And the reality is 0.01% of these kids are ever going to be elite athletes. But
Mm.
that's kind of something that we're, I guess, as an industry kind of selling is, get a massage, just recovery will help you perform, in which it will. But at that elite level, some of those elite athletes are just so far above where the general population is. It
Hmm.
probably wouldn't make that big of a difference at the youth level.
Yeah. So you kind of told us a little bit that you worked as an employee both within the massage field and outside of the massage field before you went into small business ownership and entrepreneurship. How was the transition into entrepreneurship? Was it scary? How did you actually make that decision?
Again, like it was more, I'm just tired of doing what I'm doing, and I think I can do it better for myself.
Mm.
That was the mindset. But when I started, I didn't have like a blueprint or kind of a even checklist to go through to say, hey, I want to be here. Here are the steps I need. I just knew I could do what I was doing well. I could massage really well, and people really liked my service. And I figured, hey, well, I can do this and charge money for this and do it myself. um, which looking back was uh, a pretty bad way of starting.
Mm.
but it worked out um, so far. But I think for anyone who's kind of thinking about making that jump, it's a very scary jump because you're thinking about leaving a stable income to potentially having low or no income, depending on how the market conditions are, depending on where you are, what service you're offering, the competition in your area. So it's frightening, but I think my frustration at that point with what I was doing was higher than the fear of doing it.
Mm,
So I was willing to say, one, at that time, I didn't have any kids and I wasn't married and I had no responsibilities other than myself. So
mm,
honestly, at that time, it made absolute sense from a risk reward standpoint to jump into business because I knew I had a skill set I could fall back on. I could always get back into legal marketing. I could get back into spa management. I had experience and I was successful in those fields. But now was a time where I had nothing pulling me away from jumping on a ledge, so to speak, and taking that risk. So timing is everything as well, and situations are everything. So I think that has to be a factor in when anyone decides to go into business for themselves.
yeah, you said a couple different things that kind of, um, I think, connect to our listeners. How you said something about fear. How did you manage to have faith in yourself, in the face of fear, even beyond all those things? How did you know you could bet on yourself?
Well, I looked at the alternative. It's I could look at myself, my skill set, and what I know what my tangible skills are. I know that I had a book of therapists, or excuse me, a book of clients that were consistent. They were paying. They were reliable. They were referring. I knew I had that. That was tangible. So the alternative is to stay in the situation I was and continue to get a cut of the money I could be making, or I could say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and try to get all of this on my own." And I felt at the time, and I still feel like betting on yourself is the better choice long term, especially if you have competency in your field. It's not to say like, hey, I want to just start being a computer programmer and I have no skills. I don't know HTML. I don't know Java. I don't know Fusion. I don't know anything. And to jump out, that's different. I had already in the industry a track record. So it was a lower risk for me coming from that position of strength than just saying I woke up one morning and said I want to be a computer programmer with absolutely no skill set.
Mm. When you first came out, you were talking about that you didn't really know, um, what exactly you were going to do, but you felt that you had a belief in yourself that you could do the job better than what was being done. How has the growth of your understanding of small business ownership and entrepreneurship changed since when you first got into it and now?
I mean, the best way I can say it is imagine someone who's just finished a PhD and did their dissertation on the subject versus a kindergarten who's drawing circles and squares and triangles.
Mm,
It's inconceivable how vast of a gap of knowledge was not there when I started to what it is now, and even how much further there is to go. So it was a total eye opening experience. Um, Probably say the first 5 years.
uh-huh.
Um,
So
and most of that, yeah, go ahead.
so what do you need for entrepreneur, considering you had the skill set per se, but you didn't have the knowledge? What do small business owners and entrepreneurs really need to jump into their respective career field?
You need to take yourself out of the role of a technician and put yourself in the role of an owner. So a lot of people can do the job. A lot of people can change a tire. A lot of people can do hair. A lot of people can paint a house. But that's not what's going to make your business successful. You obviously you have to understand your business. You got to know how to get your hands dirty, get into the the trenches and do the work, but you can't run a business from the trenches, not successfully. You have to remove yourself and be a step away from that, maybe even 2-3 steps away from that, to really understand your business. Because I would say when you're a technician and you're doing the work, you don't really understand the business. You understand how to do the work, but at the end of the day, you can do the work and you'd be no better off by working for another company if you don't understand all that goes into running the business. So I think most entrepreneurs don't think about this, and I didn't think about it. But the first step is to realize what your skills and talents are, what you don't know, and fill those gaps with outsourcing. So is it worth trying to spend 15 hours of your time learning QuickBooks? Or is it better to do 2 extra clients and pay a bookkeeper who can do it in an hour? So it's a thought process that has to shift from I'm going to outwork myself or outwork the problem until I have to outthink the problem. And that's where the big shift comes, when you realize, like, there's only so many hours in a day. I cannot do all of this by myself. And I don't have the expertise to do everything by myself, but I'm smart enough to know that I can hire someone. I can utilize the resources I have and the time I have to best benefit the business, and let that kind of dictate the direction you're going in.
Yeah, you hit on a few things. So, like for you specifically, you've been able to travel the world and work with professional athletes at the highest level. People often say they don't feel connected with the work, or they may understand the work as a technician. How does your mission interact with your margin as a business owner? So, if you understand the work and you're passionate about the work, how do you connect that with your mission and also making money?
I think connecting your mission to the work is important. So you have to know, what is the reason you're getting up to do it. That, yeah, obviously money is one of the major reasons why you're in business, because you're in business to make money, to make a profit, to use that profit towards whatever are your aims or your future goals. Whatever you want to do with that money is the main reason why you get into business. If you want to buy a house, you want to set up a legacy for your family, you want to buy property, whatever it is you want to do, money is obviously one of the pathways to doing that. But the mission, the why are you getting up every day? Why are you working until 2:00 in the morning to get something accomplished? Why are you taking seminars? You have to connect that to your everyday of you getting up and going to your work. So for me, my mission is to make people feel good. And I understand that when people feel good, they do good. So if you have a community of people who are feeling good and not walking around on edge or tension is on 10, there's a greater opportunity for everyone to benefit from a healthy, happy community. So if I have the ability to take, let's say Robert is having a rough week and he's really going through it family wise, whatever situation is coming up, you come in and you get a massage and you go from 10 to 2. How much better can Robert serve his family? How much better can Robert serve his community? And you take that on the large scale. If you're dealing with 80, 100, 200 people a month, how much better position are we as a community where everyone who's coming back out into the world from the clinic is feeling good and is de-stressed and doesn't have this edge on them. So that's my mission, is to honestly is make a safer place for my daughter to grow up in. And I don't want her walking around scared that the next person is going to snap on her, or this person. It's an ability to provide people the opportunity to be kind to each other. And when you're feeling good, you're not in pain, you're not stressed, kindness flows. It's hard to be kind if you're under constant stress and pain. You're going to be grouchy, you're going to be snappy. And what does that lead to? It's a cycle. Now
How long did it
get
take you to develop that understanding, that like, kind of like that one or two line vision or mission of your business? Is that
probably
something that
about
was there at the
10.
beginning, or is that
No,
something?
absolutely not. Not at all. In the beginning, I got a tagline. I'm gonna work and I'm gonna make money. That was my mission. The essence of touch was my original tagline. So it's like, okay,
Mhm.
you experience all this. It was more about the experience and how good the massage is. It didn't connect. So to answer your question, I would say about 10 or 12 years before I put that connection together, that it's beyond touch. It's beyond the service. It's what your legacy is, what you're trying to leave for the community, for your family, for the world. It's like, what are you doing that's making things better for people here? That
Mm,
doesn't just serve your own interests.
So service is definitely a big element of that. You've been able to obtain several grants for your business. You've also been included in business accelerators and incubators. How did you go about doing that? And what did that process teach you about small business ownership and entrepreneurship in general?
Well, all the process through the grants, the programs taught me that you need help and you cannot do it alone. Um, like, there's no small business that exists in an island. You're all supported by your customers, your staff, your community, and your families mostly. So that was the biggest thing I got out of it. It's like, you're not alone. You're not alone in your success. You're not alone in your failure. You're not alone in your mediocrity. So you have resources available to you, and especially during the pandemic, where a lot more resources were made available and the spotlight was on small business, we were
Mm,
able to, thank God, apply and be aware of the programs. So most of the programs that we were even involved with, or the grants we got, um, we became aware of them through the local chamber of commerce. So any business owner, I would suggest immediately get involved or even become a member of your chamber of commerce, because they do a lot of wonderful work to disseminate information that's useful for small business owners, whether it be uh, legislation changes, meet and greet with your local elected officials, your governor, your county execs. You have an opportunity to learn a lot about the business climate and to get connected with a lot of resources. So honestly, through the Chamber of Commerce's that I'm part of, I learned about all these opportunities, and even the HoCo Higher grant program, or it wasn't even a grant at the beginning. It was more of a business accelerator program where
mhm.
you go in a 10-week, I believe it was 10 weeks, where you learn from business experts and you really get the foundation of what your business should be doing and how to put the systems in place to make sure your business works. And midway through the program, they said, hey, you know, we're going to make this a pitch competition. And luckily, M&T Bank, I ponied up some more money and they made it a pitch competition, which we were thankfully able to win, which 100% fueled the move to our new location where we are now.
So yeah, I mean, I guess the differences between a small business owner and maybe some larger corporate brands is your ability to respond rapidly and quickly to different situations. How does being involved in accelerators or incubators prepare you to change to dynamic conditions in your business environments?
I think that the program I was involved with just again provided another set of resources for you. And if the onus is on you as a business owner to take those resources and leverage them in the best way you see fit. So for me, it was the connections I made in that program, and like how to do business with the state, like how to register your business as a small business enterprise with the state to open you up for other, um, not grants is the word I'm looking for, but other contracted opportunities. Um, there's a ton of programs available at the state and local level to help small businesses. And I think that just being aware of those resources that are available and also learning about putting systems in place for your business was super helpful for me.
Hmm. As a for a young entrepreneur, what would be like the top 3 things you would tell them think about as they're entering into their business or into their journey?
I would say work backwards. So think about ultimately where you want to be. What's your destination? So it's hard to get on the road to do all the things you want to do if you have no end goal in mind. That end goal can change, it's flexible, it's malleable, but start with a vision of where you want to be. And I don't mean for your business, I mean for yourself. Like, what do I want my life to look like in 10, 15, 20 years? What do I want to be able to do? And then you use the business to serve your aims, your primary goal. If your aim is to um, retire at a certain age, is to have a certain amount to give in endowments to your university, a certain amount to give for other small business owners, for family. Think about the end game first, and then that will help you kind of set the path to get there. Number two, I would say is, again, I just touched on that. You cannot succeed on your own. So as a sole member LLC, as a single member person who's starting your business, you need to really look at what your strengths are and figure out what your weaknesses are. And for your weaknesses, fill those gaps with people who know what they're doing. So there's a kind of a principle even in sports to say like, hey, I know I'm a good 3-point shooter, right? And they
Hmm.
say, oh, well, I need to work on my post game. But really, you need to continue to strengthen your 3-point game. You
Mm.
obviously want to address the post game, but your strengths are what you should really be working on all the time,
Mm.
sharpening your strengths, enhancing your strengths. The weaknesses are where you, in my opinion, find people to fill the gaps. So for me, I spent years trying to like, oh, I'm gonna do my QuickBooks, I'm gonna get my books, I'm gonna input my expenses, and I tried spreadsheets, and then I tried QuickBooks, and I tried Quicken, and it's like I don't have the time to do this to do it effectively. So outsource it.
I think you're gonna
And
change somebody's life with that right there.
it's like you're going to waste years of your life trying, and I don't want to use the word cheap, but trying to save money. But what you're really doing is wasting more money because you could spend that time and take another client, do another project, do another job, and not frustrate yourself trying to be everything because you're not. You're not a CFO. You're not a
Mm.
logistics person. You do what you do, and sitting as the business owner, you have to sit above that and say, okay, you have to pull the strings. This is what I need. Here's how I get there. Here's what I can do. But you need to build a team um, in order, even if the team is not people you hire as W-2 employees, even if the team are contractors, that's fine. They're still serving the business.
Mhm.
Um, and three, I would say, watch out for burnout. Like the mindset is to work until you drop. Like 24 hours. You're going nonstop. I'm on my grind. And I think that's an outdated notion. I think you need to work smarter and you have to build in breaks for yourself, especially as an entrepreneur, to say, hey, in my life, what I do every 6 weeks, I take 2 days off, 2 or 3 days off. And
Mhm.
then, so that's 1A. So then 1B, another 6 weeks from there, I try to take 5 days off. And it's important for me to take my time off because I do a very physically demanding job.
Mhm.
But mentally, the stress of running a business, being a father, being a husband, is a lot. And if you're not taking care of yourself and you're not building in structured breaks for yourself, you're going to run yourself into the ground. And then when you're down on the ground or in the hospital or just struggling with health issues, you're the only one that's responsible for that.
Mhm.
So you have to have some insight ahead of time to know that
Mhm.
I need to take care of myself and I cannot run myself into the ground because that serves no one.
So yeah, I think you hit a couple important things: the value of community, building community, where you can bounce ideas off of and have uh, people to talk to. Um, I'm sure you kind of come across the stat that, a lot of small business owners or entrepreneurs are not necessarily successful first endeavor, or that the failure rate increases over like 2, 3, 4 years. What do you think can help with some of that? Or do you think that's just part of the process and getting where you need to go?
Well, I don't think that you necessarily need to fail or have a failed business to then have a successful one. I think that you have to continue to be available mentally to receive training and education. Like you can't think you know everything. I think you have to be continuously seeking your own mentorship, talking to other successful business owners, and being in the business community. So what I do, I think is helpful. Anytime I go to a business that I like or I see it looks like it's well run, I go talk to the owner. So how are
Mm,
you doing this? How are you managing your employees? How do you manage your shifts? How do you manage your inventory? How do you manage A, B, C, D? And what you'll find mostly, if you're not in the same industry, those people are really very open to talking to you about what they're doing and what not doing. Now, in the same industry, if they look at you as a competitor or competition, you're probably not going to get as much of a receptive conversation. But if I
mhm,
go to a restaurant industry, which I have no competition against, or construction, business principles are all the same. So when you see where people who have an MBA, or it means they have training in business, in general business, how to run a company, how to set the structure. That's what they're doing and
mhm,
understanding it from a bird's eye view. So it doesn't matter what the product is, it
mm.
doesn't matter what the service is. If you understand business, how business works, and how to, again, set those systems and utilize your resources properly, you have a much better opportunity to be successful. On the other side of that, really quick, you could just come into the market at a horrible time. You could come
Mm,
and open a business right before a pandemic. It's
mm.
nothing you can do about that. That's just really unfortunate timing. But for the most part, if you plan and prepare yourself, you really do a good market analysis and see who's selling what I'm selling. And if it's a super successful company right down the street from me, is this the best place for me to set up shop? Will I
Mhm.
be successful in that environment? So some of it is just kind of a lot goes back to the planning and the strategic thinking about when, where, and how you're gonna kind of implement this plan you have.
In your experience, I know it's hard to know, the stats, but just in your anecdotal experience, like when you first came into massage, you stated that, you know, you felt passionate about what you could offer to the market and you saw a need and that you could do something better than what was
Mm.
being done and what you've seen. Um, and that seemed to be a lot of like internal focus on what you could provide. Do you feel as though like a lot of people just look at themselves when they're entering into entrepreneurship, or do they like examine the competition in general, all those other aspects that you were just talking about?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would just, speaking from my standpoint and from other people who are in my industry who have started off and have left like kind of franchise establishments to start their own thing. I
Hmm.
think most of it was I can do it better on my own. I don't want to deal with what I'm dealing with here. I don't want to deal with the pay structure. I can do better by myself. I can do bad all by myself, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't need another company dictating me what I do. I don't think, at least anecdotally, that there was much of a really serious analysis of, does this market need another service that you provide? Is it too similar? Like I don't think most people who that I'm aware of that go into business that are service related businesses at least have that level of sophistication in um, the planning stages to open a business. I think people who are more in products
Mm,
may, because manufacturing and products are, it's a total different way of doing business than service. Service is a
mm,
lot easier up front to set up, a lot more labor intensive. So you can kind of bank on yourself a little more in service. But I
mm,
think when you're dealing with manufacturing of products, you have so many other elements that have to come into place for you to even get a product out to the market. I think you have to do a lot more of that analysis up front.
We're just gonna do a real quick kind of about knowing your money classroom, or knowing kind of your how you grew into where you are now. So I just want to ask kind of two quick questions to kind of get an understanding of what your experiences was with money, entrepreneurship growing up.
Mhm.
So did your parents talk to you about money when you were growing up?
No, um, not at all. I mean, the only conversation I really even remember having, I even think the first conversation that I can recall in my head. Well, let me say it was two. One, when we first got my bank account set up in high school, and it was, here's how you balance your checkbook, right? But this is
Mhm,
like in 1996, 97, maybe
mhm,
98. So that, I mean, I didn't, again, I had summer jobs, so I didn't have any income flowing. It wasn't really something that I needed to pay too much attention to.
mhm,
And also got an allowance, like $20 a week. So it wasn't much of a discussion at all. And when I got out of college, the conversation I had with my father was, you need to save your money, period.
mm.
End of sentence. Okay. So it was never an in depth, like, here's how you save your money. Like, you take this percentage to this, you take this to this, and um, this is strategically how you build A, B, C, or D. We never had those conversations.
When you did get um allowance, did you have any restrictions, or do you remember when you first started getting it? Did you ask for it, or did?
I think it was like middle school, high school ish, and mostly it was all about getting money for the ice cream truck or paying for lunch at school.
So you
Um,
had to use your
or,
allowance to pay
or
for lunch as well?
yeah, or or gas for the car. But gas was super cheap back then. I think you could fill up for like $12
Mhm.
on regular. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I never had like a stash of money that I could pull from. It was like almost like week to week. It's like, you did your chores, you vacuumed, you took out the trash, you did this, you did that, and then you got $20. If you didn't, you didn't. You didn't do your
Did
chores,
you
you didn't get paid.
so did you think that was helpful as far as,
Um,
establishing?
Thinking back, yes, but I'm thinking the way I and I don't remember my mindset back then. I just think it was more of a given. I knew I was getting that money, but the
Mhm,
chores weren't like overly like taxing. Like it wasn't like I had to put a ton of effort into it. I think they were going to give us the money regardless.
mhm.
We just had to kind of put a little effort in and do what they told us to do. So it wasn't like um, I don't feel like it was related to like a job situation where like, hey, if your
Performance
performance
related.
isn't up to no, it was like just do it, get it out the way, do it, and then you'll
Mhm.
get your $20.
What was the vibe in general in the household? Was it more like calm, or was it
About
like,
money,
yeah, was it unaware, or was
totally
it anxious?
unaware. Like
Okay.
I had no idea what my parents' financial situation was.
Mm,
We
mm,
always had food. We always had the lights on. There was always. I mean, I knew we weren't rich, but I didn't. Other than that, I mean, everything was always provided for. So
mhm,
it was ignorant bliss, I would say.
mm,
Like we had enough money. We had toys at Christmas. We had food. We were able to get cars when we were for both my brother and I when we got of driving age. Um, so really, it wasn't a financial struggle, so to speak.
mhm,
But
mhm,
we never sat down and talked to my parents about money, or they never sat us down and talked to us about, hey, here's how much we're budgeting for food this week, or this is how
mhm,
much we're saving for college. Like we had no idea. It was just like they just did it, and we were focused
mm.
on school.
What do you wish you knew about money growing up, looking back?
I think looking back, I would have been helpful to understand budgeting, and would have been helpful to understand that money is a finite resource, and that it would maybe have helped me with decision making about money in my early 20s. Like, hey, you got $100, you got needs, and absolutely you have to pay. And then whatever's left over, you need to have a strategy for that. And I never thought about it. It was like, well, there was enough money to pay my car insurance and gas, and the leftover, I would just kind of go and do whatever I wanted with it. It was never like a plan for it. I was like, okay, you got $20 left out of the 100. 10 of that needs to go to savings, and then you got 10 to work with. But it was like, oh, I got $20. Let's go get some drinks. Let's go get some wings. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It was never a strategy about what to do with any excess money after the necessities were done.
All right, so this is a two-parter. What is one thing you would tell your younger self or your child or daughter to do with money?
I would say save your money, but I would explain what that actually means and how to do it. So money is a resource, it's a tool. So you have to utilize that tool to the best of your ability given your circumstances. So you have to understand what your expenses are and how to manage that. And then what you
Mm,
have left over. And always, when I say manage expenses, it's always about reducing the expenses too. So as much as you can, finding deals, couponing, waiting for sales, anything you can do to save money, as minuscule as it seems to save like $5 on gas if you do it on Tuesdays, it adds
mm,
up. So don't dismiss any way of saving money because you ultimately you want to live below your means. So if you absolutely need $100 to live each month, try to find a way to get that down to 80, like as best you can. And then that money that you have left over, have a plan for that.
mm.
So that's what I would say.
What do you want your daughter's relationship with money to be like? Like, how do you want that relationship? Because everybody's relationship with money is different. How would you want that structure with her?
I would want her not to fear money or the power of money. I would want her to understand how to utilize the resource to her benefit.
Mm,
I would want her to understand how the system works and how you can manage what you have to do what you want to do. So, really, again, going back to business planning and end goals, I would kind of want to talk to her about what are your goals? Like, let's lay out your goals and then let's work on each goal, how to get there. What are the steps you need? You want to buy a car, or you want to buy, let's say, even smaller, you want to buy a skateboard, right? Because she's been talking
mm,
about skateboards a lot. How much does a skateboard cost? Okay. So let's think about it. Do we need to buy a brand new skateboard? Can we buy a used one that's in good condition? Can we negotiate on that price of the skateboard? Can we get a sale on that skateboard? Like there's all kind of ways of utilizing your money resource to get what you want, but not just, oh, the skateboard is $50. Let's go pay $50. Let's do some research. Let's see how you can make a goal to get what it is you want. Because you can achieve all your goals financially. You can get the things you want, but let's be smart about it and let's take a step back and not just rush and go impulse. I want this, I want this, I want this, I gotta have it, which is what is happening now in the store. She's 3. So
mhm.
Daddy, I want that. Daddy, let's put in the cart. I want the robot. I want that. I want it's like, okay. I said, well, who's paying for it, Ella? You're paying for it. I said, no, I'm not. I said, do you need it? Yeah, I need it. So she can't separate her needs from her wants right now, clearly.
Mm,
And that's fine. That's where she is, at 3 years old. But when it's appropriate to have those conversations about needs and wants, and if this is a want or this is a need, if it's a want, okay, we can work on our wants. That's no problem to want things. It's in the framework of your overall goal.
mm.
Can we make this work? Can we budget for this? Okay, all right, let's do it. We can have fun. We can still enjoy our lives because we're only here for a short period of time. But while we're here, we have to make the best decisions we can. I heard a quote somewhere, and I don't remember who it's attributed to, but he said, "The a man is the sum of his choices." So if you look at
Mhm.
a man and where he is, he's there for a reason. Minus any like crazy circumstances, a major car accident, some sort of health condition,
Mhm.
you pretty much are a sum of your choices. So if you've made good, solid choices in life, if you've made good financial decisions, it will reflect in where you are and what you have, as opposed to, I'm just rolling in the wind and going left, going right, taking it wherever it goes. If you can have a solid foundation, a solid base, then I think you can set yourself up for success.
All right, we're quickly approaching the end. We have the financial word of the day, and this is the word that we pull out from a financial literacy cards from Sense to Sense. And two things. I want you just to talk about your experience with the financial word of the day growing up. And then I'm gonna ask you a couple tweaks on that. So the financial word of the day is employee. And the definition of employee is a person who works for another person or business. So what is your experience with the word employee?
I've been an employee for a long time in my life, and I've hired employees. So um, I'm very comfortable with having the contractor, which is a form of employee, a W-2, which is a direct employee of the business. Um, my thought when I hear the word employee is someone that is working to serve the goals of another. So that's how I think about an employee. Now, whether
Mm,
those goals are noble, those goals are fair, those goals are, just is, up to your interpretation. But employee exists to serve the needs of the business in whatever they are providing service or product. That's how I view employee. It's not a good or a bad thing. I think it's um, where you are and what your decisions are to be in that situation. Being an
mm,
employee for some people just makes a lot of sense. You have
mhm,
benefits, you have a structure, you get off every Friday. It's great to be an employee in some situations, and some it's not. So
mm.
whatever works for your individual situation, I would say is the answer.
Did being an employee help you prepare for entrepreneurship? And how has your understanding of the word employee changed since becoming a small business owner and having to obtain them?
As an employee, I've always been a hard worker though. So like I think it's made me appreciate the owner more because when I worked in certain jobs, even in my industry, when we worked at like a large franchise establishment, employees were always like, ragging on the owner, like, oh, and then I was always thinking, like, I don't know why you have that mindset because once you go into ownership, then you're going to be dealing with these same people, like the way you're treating the owner. So I think a lot of employees may not have a good understanding of what it is to actually run a business. I would say that's pretty accurate. So being an employee has helped me understand business from the ground level up. But being a business owner has also helped me understand the employee's position as well. So I'm in a unique position. And I think most business owners are in that position where they can understand the gripes of like the employee, but
Hmm.
they have to focus on the big picture. It's like, hey, this is the goal, this is the mission. We're all moving towards this mission. Here's your role in getting us to that point. So, you have to get the buy-in of your employees because if you don't, then the mission is not moving forward. The wheels aren't churning unless the employees are doing the churning. But to get the employees to churn, you have to bring them into the fold and make them part of the mission, make them part of the experience, and make them have some agency for what they're doing. Not just I'm showing up and I'm working for the man. You have to change that mindset of your employees or help change that mindset so you can get the best out of them and say, like, this is a win-win for all of us. Let me show you how your work here is helping the mission for the company, not just I'm here 9 to 5 and I'm on, Twitter while I'm at work or I'm shopping while I'm at work. It's like, no, like let's work. We have a certain amount of time here. Let's be productive.
Hmm. And you said something earlier about being a mentor. Um, and I guess in your role as an owner, you can see the value of good employees? What is the role of leadership and mentorship um, from an owner to employee?
It sets the foundation for your kind of entire experience with the company. So, like, if you bring someone on board and you bring them through the process slowly, you explain things. So it's very similar to my daughter. You tell her, "Hey, Ella, I need you to pick up your clothes." Why? Why? Because I said so. Well, that doesn't really work because I said so. And that's how I think a lot of us were taught. Like, because I said so, you do this or face the consequences. It's the same way with an employee. You have to get the buy-in. So you really, as an owner, need to work hard to get the trust of your employee and make sure that they really understand the mission. Ella, I need you to pick up your clothes because if you don't, daddy or mommy could trip over these and hurt themselves, or you could hurt yourself. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah,
Mm,
I understand. Okay. So can you please help me pick the clothes up? We can put it in the basket. Okay. And then once you take the time to explain it and you put the energy and effort into getting that buy-in. So now she's bought in. I don't want mommy and daddy to be hurt because I just
mm,
threw my clothes on the floor. Okay, cool. So that applies to everything else the same way. Like, I don't mean to say it like my employees are like my children, but you have to
mm,
take a responsibility to bring them up in a way that you want them to interact with your customers. So it goes kind of the customer service standards, right? Like when I bring my employees on, we have specific conversation. We have role playing where we talk about imagine your mom walked through the door. How would you want her to be greeted? Do you want her to be greeted with, "Hey, who are you here to see?" Or,
mm,
"Hi, I'm Steven. Welcome. How are you? Can I get you a cup of water?" It goes back to that basic level of human decency to speak when you're spoken to address someone when they're in the room. Like you have enough of a presence that I need to acknowledge you by saying hello. It's not like somebody breezing by on the street that you don't know. Like I need to acknowledge my customer. Same way you need to acknowledge your employee. Like, hey, this is what we do here, but let me explain why we do it and the
mm,
benefit of doing that. So now you got the buy-in, and the employee is greeting the customer. Now the customer feels great. What happens when the customer feels good? They want to come
mm,
back. They want to share that experience. Wow, I want to send my cousin in. This was such a wonderful. Okay, that's how you build business. It's through that experience. But you can't get there if you have a half-trained employee, someone who's not up on the standards of the company's culture. So the same way culture you're building in your house. This is
mm,
why we do things the way we do. This is a standard that my last name represents in the world. So this is how we conduct ourselves.
mhm.
But again, you have to explain it, take your time, and be willing to revisit it because maybe Ella doesn't understand every time. Maybe she forgets. Ella, remember, we can't leave our clothes on the floor. We have to pick them up because A, B, or C could happen. Well, why, Daddy? Then you have to explain it again. This is the reason. And
Mhm.
maybe I'm not explaining it well enough. So let me try it a different way
Mhm.
until she gets it. And once she gets it, we're good. Now we can move on to the next problem.
So we have a session that we haven't launched yet, but we're looking to launch it. A YouTube session called Your Verse, Your Lesson. So I would like to get your most important or significant verse from you that helped define your experiences growing up or help define your experiences now. It could be from the Bible, it could be from the culture, it could be something spiritually related, from a movie or a song or a play. But do you have anything? I wanted to go over this verse or lesson with my daughter and kind of explain some of the significance of why it's important.
I can't quote much from the Bible, like off the top of my head, but if we're like hip hop referencing, and some of the
Mhm,
songs I can't even remember, I just have these different like clips in my head from like 90s hip hop. But there was a
mhm,
song, and I think it was on Raekwon's The Purple album. And it's like half of us will try to make it, the other half will try to take it. You have the opportunity to create anything you want, but understanding that there's another half of the population or a percentage of the people who are going to try to scheme and take shortcuts and kind of not do things the right way. So you have an opportunity in everything you do to create something positive and do things the right way. but
Mm,
understand that there are a lot of people who are not going to do it the right way. They take shortcuts and they want to get to a level that they haven't earned. So
mm,
to be aware of that, you have to earn everything you get and do things the right way consistently. It's not just, oh,
mm.
I did it right one way. It's like, no, every day, every time you're doing it, do it the right way. What did the
And
coach
then,
say? You do it right, you do it light. Like you do the
yeah.
reps the right way. You don't have to keep running the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Practice the way you play. Literally, I mean, I never understood that. Like, why we got to practice? Like, this is, oh man, like going through the motions. But you can't simulate game speed in practice. So you're going through the motions 4 days out of the week, kind of half, heartedly.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna be able to just turn it on. You have to be on
Mm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Mamba
And,
mentality.
and how did that help define you growing up as far as like, hey, you know, some people are going to make it, some people are going to take it. Like if they take it, or even if you get something and you didn't have to work for it, does that impact or change how you look at it?
I feel like you won't appreciate it the same way. Like,
Mm,
how could you appreciate something that's just put into your lap every day? It's, oh, this is you. I'm expecting this. It's like, okay,
mm-hmm,
whatever. This is not important. But for someone who didn't have it, who had to work super hard to get it, they'll cherish it and they'll treat it well. So that can parallel to everything. It can parallel to a relationship. It can parallel to um, physical items you may have purchased in your house, like or renters. You say like renters, for example, we just bought a house and you don't see McDonald's cups outside in the parking lot. You don't see bags left out in the parking lot. But renters do that because they know the maintenance crew's gonna come by and clean it up. Someone's gonna come deal with this trash for me. So I can literally drink my soda, have my Chick-fil-A, and just dump a bag right there. It's like, how lazy can you be? But that's coming from a judgmental standpoint. It's like, that someone's going to deal with it.
mm-hmm.
When you know no one's coming for help, you, you're going to do it the right way. And
You
that's
kind
kind
of,
of what I want to make sure I teach her. Like, no one's coming to help you. Like, yeah, you'll have help from your family in a sense, but that's going to be limited. You have to be responsible and do things the right way for yourself and be self-reliant. Not to say that you won't be dependent on anyone or to be so independent where you don't think you need anyone, because that's false. But you have to be available to be a problem solver and self-reliant and figure things out on your own
mm, mm. All
to be
right.
successful.
Absolutely. So, thank you for giving us this opportunity to have an interview with us. Any closing thoughts or anything else you thought came to mind that you might want to discuss that we didn't get a chance to cover?
No, I think we touched on everything. Just going into business, just write out your goals, write out your plans, and make a make a pathway to it. There's no wrong time to start thinking about being a business owner. It's just a matter of taking the right steps to set your foundation and not to just jump into it blindly and make sure that what you're doing is a business and not a hobby.
Mm, mm.
So that's what
And
I
how do
would
you
say.
how do you know the difference?
So a business is something that can run without your involvement for a certain level of time. A hobby is something that you do, you can pick up and come back to. A business is more permanent. This is something that multiple people, multiple groups are relying on. So a hobby would be, say, like, I don't know, you could be a hobby card collector, or you can have a business out of card collecting. I think it depends on your level of input, with how much time you're willing to put into it, and if you can find a way to tap into a market of people that are willing to utilize your products and services, as opposed to, I'm on Facebook. I do card collecting. Give me a call.
Hmm.
Not to say that that's lazy, but that's not how you run a business.
What's the biggest misconception about small business entrepreneurship that you've come across in your time in the industry?
I don't know about a misconception, but I guess something that I didn't realize is when you're a small business owner, and small is the key word. Um, it's a lot of work. You're doing the work of what another company would have 5 or 6 people, maybe 10, 20 people doing. So I think small business is not to be looked at as like, oh, this is a mom and pop thing. You have to really look at this as in a growth mindset. Like, I want to grow the business. If you're not trying to grow the business, then there's no point in being in business. That's, I guess, more what the hobby level would be. I'm just comfortable being where I am, and I don't really have any goals. I can do it or I cannot do it. But if you're going to be in business, you got to be in business to make money and grow. You have to actively be trying to grow and make your business scale up. If you're not trying to do that, then you're not really in business. So I think the level of sophistication and the margin of error for small business is a lot lower than a huge business, obviously. So you have to make really good decisions, and you have to really think about everything you're doing from a strategic standpoint that goes back to your overall goal. Your goal is to have 5 clinics in the next 5 years. Is what I'm doing serving that goal? Yes or no? And that, strategic thinking, I think, is the biggest thing you got to continue to, one of the biggest things you have to always come back to, serving your goals.
Bye, fans. Thanks for time. On Failure by Certain with Daddy, Jordan, and Devon and Mommy.
Okay.
And Mommy.
Who's got my back?
I got Chopper.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it off.
To make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar.
Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on us. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So your cry.
Everybody need love. I'm tired of my problems, I'm tired of the drama, I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the hurting, I'm tired of the working, I'm tired of the struggling, I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But after that, I'll turn when you wait.
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.